Great to study Torah together. We are never displaced. We're always dispatched. What that means is that where you are is the struggle that you need to fix. Don't look at your problems. No, don't look at your obstacles as your problems. Look at your obstacles as your assignment. And when you can make that very sensitive shift, you stop becoming bitter about life. And you actually start to feel empowered. You're like, God, really? You really believe in me that much? That you made me have to deal with that horrible marriage, or that impossible boss, that difficult childhood? I had to deal with that because you actually believe in me that much. So instead of looking at God as the being that hates you, that subjected you to that dungeon, that torture chamber, you're now looking at yourself as, wow, I guess that God really, really believes in me more than I believe in me. Because if you were given that choice, whether you wanted to endure the trauma and the suffering that you endured, and many of us are currently enduring it right now. You know, early childhood trauma doesn't just stay in childhood. It manifests throughout the rest of your life in manners that you grapple with every single day. Thumbs up, thank you. So if it's just like a sapling tree, if you scratch a sapling tree, you know what happens to that sapling scratch? When it grows big, it has a huge gash on it. That's what a human being is. Ki adam eitz hasada, for man is the tree of the field. You scratch a child, there's no telling how that's going to manifest later in life. To think of the trauma that these hostages in Gaza are going to have to live with for the rest of their lives. It's one thing the people that were killed on October 7th, but I worry about those that survived October 7th, and those that are still in captivity, and those that they'll never be the same. Okay. And it's just unreal to think of the trauma that these people are going to have to deal with to grow up with.
PTSD. The Israelis are very good at dealing with that.
Right.
PTSD.
I just want to say that Addiction is an amazing book by Johann Hari. It's called Chasing the Scream. Chasing the Scream. In this book, he's an interesting guy. He sort of travels around the world, and he lives like in 100 different cities as he interviews the brightest minds from around the world on a particular idea. So he was researching addiction, and he discovered, what is addiction? This is his whole novelty in the book, Chasing the Scream, Johann Hari. Addiction, what's the opposite of, if you want to know what something is, you got to know what the opposite of it is. What's the opposite of addiction?
Freedom.
Connection. The opposite of addiction is connection. When you feel connected to your parents, to other people, to your spouse, to other human beings, particularly in early childhood, to your parents and caregivers, that's when you're healthy. But it's when you're not connected to your parents because they're verbally or emotionally or sexually or some other kind of abuse or financially abusive, then what happens is that you depend on chemicals for comfort. Whether those chemicals are drugs or alcohol, whether they are dopamine from cell phone addiction, or they are, I don't know what the drug is from promiscuity. What happens to your body?
Probably dopamine as well.
It's all dopamine. Oh, there's that great book. Did you give me that?
Dopamine Nation.
Somebody gave me that.
Yeah.
Dopamine Nation. Now, all right, that was amazing. Dopamine Nation. It's a chemical addiction. Even if you're addicted to people, you're addicted to other people's validation. That's the word I was looking for. The endorphins. It's the feel good stuff that you're feeling because you're not getting that feel good from your parents in earliest childhood. That's why you need that. They say that children of sexual trauma either become drug addicts or PhDs. It's amazing. This is what the research shows. Drug addicts because they become, I just explained, because addiction is the opposite of connection, or they become PhDs because they become a human doing instead of a human being. Their lack of self-esteem is shattered beyond belief, beyond repair, And therefore, they become a human doing instead of a human being. They need to define themselves and identify by their accolades and achievements instead of by who they are. Right? What I'm trying to portray is how grown adults in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s are struggling with the issues of the earliest childhood. And if you ask such a person if you ever wanted to be faced with that challenge, I'm pretty certain that they would say no. Yet, Hashem didn't give you that choice. Hashem said, see you later, hasta la vista, right? Pushes you down the slide, right? And you realize that Hashem obviously believes in me more than I believe in me. And as the person sits on the therapist's couch crying his eyes out, why me? It's this chiropractic adjustment of Chassidus that allows us to realize that I'm not a victim. I'm actually the master of my own destiny. And that, by the way, is why Joseph is so inspirational to me. Because Joseph was the victim of so much abuse from so many characters in his life. Every kind of abuse he pretty much experienced. Yet, he never once complained. And in fact, he says to his brothers when he ultimately faces them, he says, don't feel bad for what you did to me. I am Joseph, the prime minister, because you sold me as a slave to Egypt. So he realized that he was the product of his trauma. His success was the product of his trauma. And we read it this morning in the Torah when the Jewish people are entering the exile. They're entering, today in the Torah reading, we read about the Jewish people entering the exile of Egypt. And it's very interesting that Hashem testifies as the trauma of exile begins, of persecution, forced labor begins. The Torah says, and the more that they tortured them, the Jewish people, the more they prospered, the more they flourished, the more they multiplied. Just like the olive produces its oil only under pressure, so too does the human being produce its finest only when challenged, when faced with struggle. That's when we produce our finest achievements, right? The example I use, what?
When you say I'm not a victim, but I'm master of my destiny, think about how that applies to today, where so many people are trying, profess that I am a victim, or people tell you that you're a victim, even if you don't necessarily think you're a victim.
What's it? Who tells you that you're a victim?
The victors.
Or they proclaim that they are victims.
Right.
You mean like the Me Too movement? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, it's not
Well,
only that.
it manifests itself in many different ways. In academics.
They're victims of minority.
That's right.
And so much in
Of racism, you mean?
Well, the
it's
New
not
York Times
necessarily.
today,
It's often
woman was
associated
fired
with
gay.
race, but
Yeah. She was fired? I thought she resigned. Okay.
Well, whatever.
Well,
She
Oh, really? Interesting.
she had an editorial and said this is all a result of racism.
Oh, racism.
Racism.
Depends
All
on.
racism.
Tell her it depends on the context. Racism is fine. Depends on the context.
Oh, I know. Al Sharpton said the same thing.
whatever ails you and whatever you don't succeed and accomplish, it's
Blame
because
somebody.
Someone
you're a
else's
victim,
fault.
right? You're a victim, not.
Look, I want to put it
You
this
have
way.
to be
Okay.
master of your own
I want to put it this way. Let me put it into a slightly different context. So Jewish people declared independence in the state of Israel in 1948, and the Arab armies told their Arab brethren that were living in Israel to leave, so that they could finish the Jews off and they could come back in a few days or weeks. Right? So they ran away and they never came back. They're still waiting to come back. Those Arabs are what they call refugees, right? Now, the Arab is the perpetuation of misery. Have you ever met the Jewish refugees from anywhere? You ever met Jewish refugees anywhere? A Jewish refugee camp? You know what the Jewish refugee camps are? No such thing. It's New York City, it's New Jersey, it's Miami Beach and Los Angeles and Philadelphia. These are the Jewish refugee cities.
Now it's fun to
Because
say.
we're not victims. We're not victims. We don't live like that. We're not the perpetuation of misery and dysfunction. We actually believe that our greatest days are ahead of us and that we are the masters of our own destiny.
But I'm saying that message is not the message that so many people get.
Because they're not learning Hasidus. They need to come to this class.
Where are they? Where are they?
But they're being told just the opposite.
I think you should be very wary of these kind of teachers. You have to watch out who your teachers are. Seriously, I mean, we used to wonder if our kids are good enough for college. Today we
No,
wonder if the
colleges are
colleges are good enough for our kids.
And this
Right?
This is what I worried about. Where do you go to school?
Spencer High School.
Right.
High school.
Yeah, you got to be careful with where we spend 18 years educating our children and infusing them with values, only to have those values turned against us when we send them to some of the most corrupt, twisted minds in known to mankind in the most intensely brainwashing institutions on earth called U.S. colleges and universities. Right? I mean, that's what's going on. The kids come out like.
They feel victim.
Anyways, let's
upon.
not focus on the problem. Let's focus on the solution. So,
Yeah.
what is the solution? What is the solution? And by the way, I want you to know, humanity, the Jewish people. Let's talk about the Jewish people as one organism. We are one organism. What happens when one part of the body is ill? It affects the rest of the body.
Of course.
What happens when one part of the body begins to heal? Like, let's say you put an injection, a vaccine. No, that might be a political term today, right? Let's say you put in a.
Florida is.
That's not for healing.
Let's say you put in a medication you inject a medication into the arm. It begins to heal the rest of the body, right? The whole body, the bloodstream. We as the Jewish people, we're a quorum of men over here. We're Jewish people together with our online viewers, Corey, Elaine, Rocco's mom, and David Weinberg. We are a significant component of the Jewish people right here. And if we can experience in this circle, if we can experience an awakening to this issue that you're pointing out, that we're no longer victims, that's an incorrect way to look at ourselves and at our lives, but rather to realize that we are the masters of our own destiny, empowered by God Almighty to rise to the highest heights, and that no one can harm us because only Hashem is in control of us. It's then that we are actually healing not only ourselves, but all of the Jewish people and humanity by extension. So let's venture into the discourse. We're on page 367. Where we're scratching the surface here in lesson 3 of this Maimer. Yetzi Adam lefa'alei v'lavadasei adi orev is the verse in King David Psalms chapter 104, verse 23. It's page 367. The verse says, man goes out to his work, to his labor, which should be done until evening. A verse which seems utterly useless when read at face value. You know, I don't blame the Bible critics. You know, when they read the Bible, they say, this is pathetic. You know, when they read the Bible, they're like, this is not only rated, and not only is it rated for PG 37, but it's also useless. But that's when you read the Bible at face value. You need to put on your scuba diving gear and be able to go down beneath the surface in order to be able to uncover the depths, to plumb the depths of the wisdom and the ideas that are being shared with us. What do we explain so far was that the Alter Rebbe, whose yahrzeit, by the way, is tonight. The Alter Rebbe said in the name of the Baal Shem Tov that the meaning of this verse and the profound wisdom that King David is sharing with us is not that when you go out to work, when you go to the office, you should come home before at nighttime. It's not what it's saying. He's saying that each and every human being is on a mission. Make sure you finish your work before you die. You're not a victim. You are on assignment. You're not a prisoner. You are a soldier. You have all the tools that you need to be able to achieve your mission. Stop kvetching. Stop complaining about the interior design of your of the place that you're assigned to in Gaza. Just do the mission, finish the job, and you can come home at nighttime. Right? So that's how we started. We started second paragraph. The Baal Shem Tov interprets this verse. Man goes out to his work as a reference to the soul's mission, which is considered its work. For it was for the purpose of accomplishing this mission that the soul was sent to this world. Every person must know, says the Baal Shem Tov, that his labor should be done by evening, i.e. that the task must be completed before it is too late. What happens if you don't complete your mission before it's too late? You have to reincarnate. You have to come back to this world after we die. The soul goes up to heaven where it's judged. Either you go to heaven, which is, the divine waiting room for the coming of the Mashiach, or you go to the laundromat, which is known as purgatory, hell, right? You got to get a little soul cleansing, like soul therapy. You've been through tough times. You get a little soul therapy. Or you need to come back downstairs. They put you back in the elevator and they send you downstairs to finish your mission because you didn't do your job. Right? I mean, your wife sends you to the store to buy milk. You come back with you come back with flowers. She's like, it's very nice you brought me flowers, but you get the milk. Right? Like Zed Hashem is like, thank you very much. You got me.
Can I get punished for that, or this is just a metaphor? Okay.
It's a metaphor.
Happens all the time. Okay.
We say, Harvey, we say in Yiddish, "Afagan of Brenta Hittel." The hat burns on the head of the thief. When somebody says something, you take it personally. It's the reason for that. Okay, good. So
All these great
So-
issues, but-
we're on dispatch. The day. So the day is divided into 3 portions: morning, afternoon, and evening. Now this is the physical day, which is a metaphor for the day of our lives. Morning, afternoon, and evening. We have the sunrise, yours, the beginning of our lives, the middle age, yours, and you have the sunset, yours, of our lives. Man's life, too, is divided into 3 segments. The Torah tells us that man was granted a limited time on this earth. Just as someone who undertakes to complete a task within a given time knows that time will eventually run out, so too must man know that his lifespan is limited. Just like a soldier goes out to battle, depending on your assignment, they give you the tools that you need. They don't give, tanks and F-16 fighter jets to infantry because that's not what they need, right? They give the F-16 fighter jets to the Air Force. They give the submarines to the Navy. They give they give them the tanks to Shiryon Brigade, and they give the bulldozers to the Yahalom Brigade, right? But the regular infantry soldiers, they just get bullets. So you can't expect and say, well, my mission, I have everything. I have all the tools. No, you don't. You only have the tools that you need. So therefore, this is a very, very interesting concept. You've only been given the tools that you need to finish your mission. Now, every one of us has a unique mission. Some of us have a mission that requires 35 years of life, which means you only get 35 years of life. It doesn't mean that we all get 120 years worth, and therefore it's a tragedy when somebody passes away. It means that time, space, treasure, talent, resources, emotional makeup is all exactly what you need to fulfill your mission. Andrew, do you know that before your soul was born, you picked who your parents would be? Is that an interesting concept?
So,
Before you were born, before the soul is born into this world, the soul knows what its mission is on this earth.
but we keep talking about mission. And so I'm struggling to understand what's my mission.
Okay, I'm going to give an example.
How do we know what our mission is?
I'm going to give an example in a moment. But let me just finish this point.
That seems so important if we're here for a mission.
Right. It would be nice to get the memo.
You need to know what your mission is.
It'd be nice to get an email once in a while, like a reminder or something. By the way, don't
Someone has
forget.
to tell me my mission.
Right. You're like a soldier. You've been dropped into Gaza. I'm like,
Okay.
What the heck am I doing here?
which unit am I in? I don't even know which army I'm fighting for, right? Okay, fine. So fair enough. A good point. So just to explain this, the soul knows what its mission is. The body does not. Your mind knows your mission. Your brain does not. What's the difference between mind and brain? Mind is part of the soul. Brain is physical, part of the body. Your soul is well aware of what your mission is. Elsewhere in the book of Psalms, to answer your question, elsewhere in the book of Psalms, King David says, "Re'evim gam tzemeim nafsham bohem tis'atov." They are hungry, they are thirsty. Their soul pines, yearns within them. What does that mean? Again, another seemingly useless verse, which makes no sense at all. Sounds like the King David was just smoking something.
Probably was.
I don't know what he was on, but it sounds good, Like they are hungry, they are thirsty. Who's hungry? Who's thirsty? Their soul, we switch topics now. Their soul is yearning within them. The Baal Shem Tov explains what this verse means. Why are you hungry? Do you ever crave certain kind of food?
Certain kind of food?
Yeah.
On occasion.
On occasion.
Yeah.
Did you ever crave any kind of real estate? Did you ever say, I need to buy that piece of real estate?
No.
Yeah.
Never?
No.
You did?
No.
No.
Nobody? Seriously, guys, am I the
I
only
did.
one?
Well,
Okay,
yeah.
mazel tov. Thank you. Okay.
Absolutely, the house.
Yeah. The house, I needed to buy that house because I fell in love with that house.
Yeah, I wanted to
Yeah.
live on the beach. I had to
You
live
come
on
from
the
Chicago. Why did you pick Palm Beach Gardens? Why didn't you pick San Diego?
Face.
Why?
I don't know.
Because our travel agent told us instead of spending a fortune on vacation, with my 4 kids somewhere for the same amount of money I could rent a house at PGA.
Okay, that's
We
how it
fell
started.
in love with PGA.
Oh, there we go. You
No,
see
we
right
did.
there.
We
He
fell
fell
in
in
love
love.
with this.
Wait a minute.
Why did you fall in love with PGA?
Well, for 4 or 5 years, and then we decided to buy.
Do you think that was by chance? Says King David.
No,
Re'evim
it's not
gam
by chance.
tzameim.
I get it.
He says, you're hungry, you're thirsty, you desire something. You want to know why you desire something, says King David. It's
soul.
because the second part of the verse, it's your soul that's yearning within you. Your soul knows its mission on this earth. Harvey saw, understood, perceived that his mission it lies in Palm Beach Gardens. Okay? Harvey understood.
Right. Yeah.
Harvey understood, not doesn't lie. Yeah, it lives in Palm Beach Gardens, right? So Harvey saw, I mean, just think about it. This past Shabbos, we had over 200 people here in Shul, many of whom were the result of a single man here, Harvey Barnett, who was responsible for getting at least 25% of them to be here in many respects. Think about that. How many people were connected to the Yiddish guy because of him? So the point is that Harvey might think, we might think, well, I just fell in love with the golfing greens at PGA National. I liked how they parked the car on the water at the Honda Classic. Really, it's deeper. It's your soul that's yearning, that's burning within you, and it's like a heat-seeking missile. Your soul is like schlepping you to a certain place. Has anybody here ever fallen in love?
Of course, all the time.
More than once.
Why is it? Why is it that you fall in love? Why? Why do you fall in love? I've said this before. I'm going to repeat it again for effect. So here you are. You have all your friends. You're like a normal human being. You got your finances in order. You got your real estate. You got a nice job. Suddenly you meet a woman. Right within 2 weeks, you're divulging all your secrets to her. Right, you're letting everything out. You're confiding 2 days, 2 days, right? You're confiding everything in her. You're actually making decisions that don't really make so much sense. And then, by the way, and then you decide, and then you say to her, wouldn't you like to share a house and a bank account with me for the rest of your life?
Yep.
And you're like, if you actually rationally think about that, that doesn't actually make all that much sense,
But
right? For an organized person like yourself, right? Why are you falling head over heels with this person? The reason is because that person is the second half of your soul. That person is your soulmate, and you can't help yourself. Your soul is just like a magnet schlepping you to this other person, and despite your best judgment, that's marriage. That's the comedy of marriage. It's awesome. It's part of being human being, right? Because our soul senses the soul attraction, the soulmate, right? Now,
what about the arranged marriages?
what is an arranged marriage? Arranged marriages are awesome. Because let me tell you what arranged marriage is not, first of all. Arranged marriage is not as portrayed in that horribly anti-Semitic movie on Netflix. I think it was called Unorthodox. Right, which portrays sexual intimacy as romantic as knocking a nail into a piece of wood, right? Yeah, that was a very angry woman who was the producer of that particular show.
Right.
So when she portrayed in her anger and revenge against her own community, when she portrayed how she was stuck into a room with a man for 5 minutes before the families announced their marriage, right?
Their engagement.
That's Baba Mises. Okay, the way we do an arranged marriage in my family, for example, we call it a recommendation. It's called a recommendation, as opposed to meeting someone in a bar where you have no idea of what kind of diseases they carry, right? What happens in the Frum community is that we have matchmakers, and they say, Jan's got a daughter, Andy's got a son, and these two have a lot in common. She wants to become this, and he wants to become that. They want a large family, they want a small family, they want to live far, they want to live near, and by common values, they say, okay, well, why don't we introduce them to each other and let them figure it out? That's what we do. It's called a recommendation, right? There's a guy in the community here. He's an atheist, but he says to me,
Emotions, you get together, and what happens when you have emotions in 2 weeks, you get closer, and then all of a sudden, years later, it ends up in divorce.
that's why you need a good rabbi. I'm serious. You need a good rabbi to guide you because it's conflict. The body does not know its mission. The soul does. So the question is, where do you live? Do you live in your body or in your soul? What's your emphasis? If you're a person that sees life through the lens of your soul, then you realize that this person is my soulmate. But if you're a person that is living life through the lens of money, or through the lens of my address or my country club identity, then you're like, why should I live with this person, right? You know, it's like these Hollywood marriages. You know, the movie star marries the football star until he breaks his leg and he loses his contract. Now, why do I need you anymore? Right? Like what do we need each other for? Like, seriously, it makes no sense. Like I could do better, right? Because that's if football or fame or the red carpet is what your life is all about, then I guess you don't need me anymore because I'm not good enough for the red carpet, right? What was I saying though? I was trying to make a point there. I was in the middle of something. What? Soulmate. So the body, the soul. Arranged marriages. I was talking about something else. I can't remember what it was. Oh, the atheist. Thank you, Rabbi Yisrael. The atheist. So there's an atheist in the community. He says to me, he says to me, he doesn't believe in God. I said, I don't believe in atheists. And he says to me, we're very, very close. And he says to me, Rabbi, because his daughter got married, his son got married. And, you never know who your son's going to bring home. Like, where did you find this one? But he says he's envious of the way that we do it. Because here, it's the family, the parents, the grandparents. You see what I'm saying, right? You come with a background. So I just want to answer your point, is that I think it's a very good way to do marriages. And we're having a Netflix matchmaker coming here to Chabad in a week or two. She's doing. It's only for women, I know, but it's an event which is showing you how to make the matches. Back to the point. Back to the question that Chuck keeps on asking, which is, what is my mission? I want you to understand that your soul senses what your mission is, right? And therefore, when you yearn for a piece of real estate, when you want to buy, when you want a pickle, when your wife tells you, and this happened to me once, that she needed something at 3:00 in the morning, right? Well, actually, no, that was a medication that she needed, so nothing, whatever.
She's pregnant.
Yeah, when you yearn, you desire chocolate. Why do you desire chocolate? Why this chocolate? I don't want to go to that restaurant. Why that restaurant? There's 67 other restaurants available, right? Why that one? It's because your soul senses that there's something in that food and that experience that your soul needs to experience and to elevate. When you make a blessing or a mitzvah on a physical object, that piece of real estate, that physical object has been waiting for you since the beginning of time to be redeemed, uplifted, and sanctified. Quick story. Your soul, yeah, you've been eating a lot? So a quick story of the school teachers of Vishenkovich. They were visiting the Rebbe Rashab, the 5th Chabad Rebbe in the town of Lubavitch in Russia, in Belarusia. And on the way back, they were walking back, and they stopped on the side of the road where they sat on the side of the road, they closed their eyes, and one of them was repeating the teachings that he had heard from the Rebbe in Lubavitch, and the other one was listening intently. And they were swaying like this. One was repeating the teachings by heart, and the other one was listening, and they were oblivious to the surroundings. The Rebbe Rashab and his son, the future Rebbe, the future 6th Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, were in a carriage, and they drove by, and they noticed these two chassidim on the side of the road, so they stopped. And they noticed that the two chassidim on the side of the road were oblivious
To the world around.
to the world around them. They didn't notice that the carriage stopped next to them. They didn't notice that the Rebbe himself was next to them and observing them just a few feet away. Said the Rebbe Rashab to his son, the previous Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak. He said, you should know that this piece of real estate right here has been waiting 5,600 and X amount of years, and X amount of months, and X amount of weeks and days and hours and minutes for the two school teachers of Vishenkovich to come at this spot and to study Torah right here. Because by them doing the study of Torah, this piece of real estate, what they're doing is that they're liberating the sparks of godliness that are trapped in this particular spot. And in that case, that was their mission upon this earth. You see what I'm saying?
Those sparks.
The places that we go to, the people that we encounter, the struggles that we overturn, the shuls that we affiliate with, the people that we affiliate with, they're all part of our mission. Why? Not because our body knows, it's our soul that draws us to them. Are you okay with that or no?
No.
I understand what you're saying, but
But you're saying, how do I do it?
my soul ain't talking to me.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you this. So
I don't
therefore, on a practical level, so let's talk on a practical level. So how do you handle this? On a practical level, here's what you're supposed to do. I mean, there's so many stories. Oh my God. Let me tell maybe two more stories just to put it on a practical level, okay? So there was a chassid of the,
Looking up some of the stuff that he's talking about.
there was a chassid of the Maggid of Mezrich, the Rebbe of the Alter Rebbe. He asked him to understand divine justice. He said, explain to me how divine justice works. So he says, if you want to know divine justice, I want you to go to a certain spot in the woods and camouflage yourself. Nobody should see you. And no matter what happens, you don't say a word, you don't make a move. You just observe, then you'll know. So what happens is that he goes to the woods and he's excited. Divine justice, he's going to see. He's watching and he sees how a man comes by this little river. He's watching the river. A man comes and he drinks from the river. He puts down his wallet, bag of money under a rock, and he goes to sleep. He wakes up. He forgets his wallet, and he keeps on going. Now the man wants to scream at him and say, "Hey, you forgot your wallet." He's not saying anything. A few minutes later, another guy comes by, has a drink, relaxes, notices a bag of money under a rock, takes it with him. He takes it. A few minutes later, another man comes by, has a drink, and he takes a nap. While he's napping, Mr. Number One comes back, looking for his money. He sees a man sleeping at the exact spot that he was sleeping. He wakes him up and he says, "Where's my money?" And he says, "I don't know who you are or what you want from me. Leave me alone." He beats him up. Man number one beats up man number three. Now this guy watching, he's like, "I want to do something about this," right? But he can't because he promised the Maggid the message. He's not going to do anything. Okay, that's the end of the story. Beats him up, fine. Comes back to the Maggid and he's like, "I'm so confused. How is that divine justice?" Says the Maggid to him, here's what happened in the previous lifetime. In the previous lifetime, man number one stole money from man number two in business.
The previous life.
And that's why in this lifetime, man number one lost his wallet to man number two in order to do a tikkun, which means a repair to restore the funds to their rightful owner. Okay, what about man number three? What does he have to do with this? Said the Maggid, he was the judge that was bribed by man number one, the thief, in the previous lifetime, to rule against, he was bribed and to rule against man number two, the victim. So that's why he needed to come back to get Petch. You know what Petch is? To get beaten up. That's why he needed to come back to get his just rewards.
That's real justice.
That's divine justice. My point is, we look at life and we see just one scene. We're like, "Oh, that's horrible. It's horrible." But we don't see the rest of the picture. So when you talk about our mission, we're getting more context of our mission when we realize that it could be your mission is to study Torah in a piece of real estate on the side of the road when your car breaks down, right? It could be that your mission is to collect a wallet under a rock next to a brook. Could be your mission is to get beaten up. That doesn't sound too good.
That's what it sounds like.
Is there a distinction or is it compatible with what you inherit from your parents? So you're the product of their souls. And I just think of my father and my mother, how many things I do that emulate exactly what they did and how they acted, and kindness and charity and all that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So is that
I think it's a critical component of your mission because you choose your parents. So I chose to be born, apparently, to a father who's a rabbi. My soul chose to be born to a rabbi's family. You probably didn't. You chose some other kind of parent. And now this is painful to realize.
Yeah, okay. You're about to say.
Yes, it's painful to realize that the soul's aware of the character profile of the parents they're about to be born to.
Oh, great.
Their imperfections and their struggles, their demons, their problems, right? So I was born to a daughter of Holocaust survivors. I mean, think about it. There's a lot of baggage that comes along with that, right?
Right.
So there's the good, the bad, and the very ugly that comes along, right? So when you realize that your soul knows what its mission is, and therefore the soul chooses its parents, that is for the good and the bad, which means it's for the stepping stones that you need to be able to reach your mission, but it's also for the tools that you need to be able to achieve your mission. So whether you need to be set up into an environment of dysfunction in early childhood so that your mission is to overcome and transform that dysfunction, right? Like think of the drug addict who becomes a therapist. That's a person that's taken control, become the master of his destiny. Think of the victim of divorce who's become a compassionate divorce attorney, right? It's interesting that think of the anti-Semite. We had an anti-Semite here a few months ago. He was a neo-Nazi, a neo-Nazi skinhead who became a pro-Semite. He repented his ways, and now he speaks around the world about his mistakes, right? About his journey. So here's a guy that is taking his very negative upbringing, right? Very negative upbringing, which he spoke about, and is turning that into the platform for which seems to be his purpose and mission upon this earth. So there's the good and the bad that you inherit from parents. And now, by the way, so what I started to say at the very beginning was that you're given all the resources that you need. That those resources include time. You don't have an unlimited amount of time. You don't have an unlimited amount of resources, money, or talent, or skill, or tools. You have only the tools that you need. You were given the gun that you need to be able to finish your mission. And that's why we can't squander time. So therefore, on a practical level, Chuck, I want to say this to you. On a practical level, when you observe Torah and mitzvahs, as much Torah study and as much mitzvah observance as you can, wherever you are, we do so in the hope that we will be covering our base when we get there. Does that make sense to you? On a practical level, you don't know where it is, but just keep vigilant. I think Ed wanted to say something.
No, actually, we have to leave it through. When I ask you a
Yeah.
question.
So you're talking about time, like when someone completes their mission, do they die after that?
The moment you finish your mission, you'll be like disincentivized, right? Like, I don't want to finish my mission.
Right, so I'm still working.
I'm gonna take my time.
I knew my mission, but I'm really doing it slowly.
I don't think so, Andrew, because you don't find. I mean, look, it's interesting. It's an interesting question. I'm not sure I know the answer to this question. Let me put it this way: that you find certain people that the minute they retire, they die. It's a sad phenomenon. The minute they move to Florida, right? It's interesting, and like maybe that was not part of their journey, right? But then you find, I think that the missions aren't so black and white. I think it's about repairing relationships. I think it's about overcoming trauma. I think it's about making peace with your maker. These are not black and white binaries where you can say, okay, mission done, now next. It's very gradual, slow processes, right? I would say that as a generalization, many of us have the mission of normalizing a relationship with our God, with our Father in heaven, despite great traumas that we've experienced in this life and in previous lifetimes. And that's not something that happens the minute you lay to fill in the first time and it's over. Does that make sense to you? But again, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know if I know the answer to that question.
Is it possible you never complete your mission? Because your mission's not a
You,
project.
Well, that's
you,
when
you,
you come back.
you so that's they come
Your
back.
mission's a journey,
You
not
get
a
7
project.
times to come back.
You gotta come
Yeah,
back.
so along those lines, I will tell you, I've seen several cases where somebody retires and then within a month or two, they go to.
Yeah, kinda sad, right?
Yeah.
Warren, you want to say something?
No, Andrew asked the same question I had raised.
Interesting. Yeah, look, I don't know the answer to that question, but I think it's a good place to stop over here. Just to- oh, you were gonna say something?
No, I had an experience. One of our closest friends' granddaughter, 24 years old.
Yeah.
Brilliant young lady. Got a horrible cancer and died. And I knew her, but not well. And when we went to the funeral, which was humongous, she had one friend after another friend stand up and give a eulogy about how she impacted their lives and changed their life. I mean, it was remarkable. And I'm sitting there saying, this girl didn't live in vain. This was her mission. It was.
It's beautiful. It's very
It
beautiful.
was absolutely stunning.
Is it possible that you're subconsciously fulfilling your mission, but consciously not knowing what your mission is?
Well, that's
Subconsciously, yeah, you have.
Soul
It has to be
is the-
subconscious because God designed it in a way that we don't know what it is. So it has to be subconscious.
So we never know what our mission is. I mean,
That's why you got to keep firing. You got to keep your finger on the trigger, man. You got to keep on firing.
but am I
Anything moves, you fire.
Am I searching for something that there's no answer to?
No, I think you're on the right track. I think you're studying Torah.
Part of your
You're
mission
asking
was
great
to be
questions.
right
Exactly,
here.
exactly.
That's why you're here.
Where you
You're putting
are
me
is
through
where
this.
you have to be.
But I can't, that's my mission in life.
No, it's part of your mission. There's lots of.
Why
missions.
can't
Part
that be
of-
your
part
mission
of
in
that
life?
Journey. It's
Why-
part of your journey.
Why can't it be a mission? I want to give you a quick example. I'm sorry, I'm so full of examples. I could talk about this for hours. There was a plague in the Torah. There was a group of Jews that rebelled against God. They were sinning with adultery and idolatry. Okay, and in the Torah there was 24,000 men that died as a result of that plague. Now, what happens later on? Fast forward 1,000 years. Rabbi Akiva has 24,000 students, Torah students, and they all die in a mysterious plague. And it looks like a travesty. It looks like, what kind of God would do that?
These are-
I don't believe in a God that would take 24,000 scholars of Torah. If that's what he does to his scholars, I don't want to have anything to do with him. But the Kabbalists come in and they say, 1 second, look at the bigger picture. The Kabbalists say the 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva who died were the reincarnation of the 24,000 men of the tribe of Shimon who died in sin. So in the first life, they were born in holiness and they died in sin.
these were born in-
These guys were born in sin and they died in holiness. They died as Torah sages, which means they reversed the error of their previous lifetime. Could it be that we were all part of the French emancipation, the Russian Enlightenment in a previous lifetime, that we were Torah scholars, all of us, Torah yeshiva students, and we all went off the deep end with the rise of the Enlightenment and we left everything behind. And we needed to come back to this world in order to live a life that began with total secularism on different levels for each of us, so that we can work our way to this table, to be able to ask these questions and experiencing this excitement and inspiration, to be able to say that we've closed the circle. Could it be? I think so.
So am I the reincarnation of some previous?
I think so. You're absolutely a reincarnation.
You're a Frenchman, I can tell that.
Yeah, you're definitely a reincarnation. We all are. The question is of who. We don't really know that.
You talk about.
Shkayach.
Rabbi, you mentioned one thing, sparks.
Sparks, yeah.
Sparks. There's a limited number of sparks. We have to find those sparks. You've talked about that.
Yeah. That's part of our mission. Absolutely. That's very much part of the mission, is looking for those sparks. It's interesting. Your Winston is posting here that on the 24th of Tevis, 5597. Wow, that would have been 200 years ago. About 190 years ago, a devastating earthquake struck northern Israel, killing 4,000 Jews in Safed, between 700 to 1,000 Jews in Tiberias. Many of the survivors migrated to Hebron, rejuvenating the developing Chabad community established there 10 years earlier by the second Rebbe of Chabad, Rabbi Dover Levovich. It's very, very interesting. I did not know that. Thank you, Winston. All right, I'm going to end it over here, guys. Thank you so much. And today's Torah study, of course, was dedicated in loving memory of Stephanie and Jay Marmer's brother, Bert Stolman. His name is Dovber Avraham Ben Hershleip. May his soul be elevated in Gan Eden in merit of the Torah study that we've studied today.
You answer your question, I think it's a little bit.